Imagine waking up every day without letting other people's words, actions, or moods control your happiness. Right now, you might be reacting to every criticism, ignoring your own peace, or carrying stress that isn't yours to bear. In this audiobook, you'll discover practical ways to stop taking things personally, understand your triggers, and protect your emotions so you can stay calm and focused no matter what happens around you. You'll learn how to detach ego, respond thoughtfully instead of emotionally, and build confidence through self-awareness. Every chapter gives actionable steps you can apply immediately to improve your relationships, manage stress, and strengthen your inner resilience. By the end, you'll feel empowered to create boundaries, maintain emotional balance, and live life on your terms. Subscribe to Audiobook every day and get access to more strategies that guide your personal growth and long-term success. This is your chance to take control of your peace and mindset. Number 1. Understand triggers and emotional reactions. When someone's words hit like a cold wind, the body reacts first, and the mind follows. A quick heat behind the eyes, a tightening in the throat, or a sudden urge to defend. That physical rush is the signal, the raw data, the starting point. Understanding triggers and emotional reactions begins with treating those sensations as information rather than proof. The body reports, the mind interprets. The power comes from noticing the report and deciding how to use it. This is the moment where discipline replaces drama. Start by paying attention to the smallest signals. Wearable devices and apps are useful, but the most reliable instrument is the body itself. Notice pulse rate, shallow breathing, muscle tension, a clenched jaw, or a sudden coldness. These are the body's primitive alarms. When these alarms sound, the brain often jumps to conclusions. They disrespected me, they don't care, I'm being attacked. Those conclusions feed the emotional reaction. The first practical step is simple and immediate. Observe. Name the sensation. Say internally, tight chest, racing mind, or cold hands. Naming a feeling reduces its intensity because it moves the experience from reflex. This act alone creates distance, the essential buffer that prevents automatic reactivity. Build a short daily practice that sharpens this skill. Each morning, spend 3 minutes scanning the body. What is tense? Where is breath shallow? Notice without judging. This trains the brain to find physical alerts quickly during stress. When an interpersonal trigger occurs, pause and perform a one-sentence inventory. Where is the sensation? What thought arrived? What action urges are present? The pause does not have to be long. A calm 3 to 5 second count can be enough to break the reflexive loop that turns a small irritation into a storm. Triggers are often predictable. A tone of voice, an unfinished email, a traffic jam, or a comment from a family member may activate old pain. There is history behind many reactions. A seemingly small critique might echo a childhood pattern of rejection. Recognizing that triggers are often historical helps dissociate present events from past meanings. The person in front of you is not a reincarnation of every hurt. They are a human making a choice now. That understanding is liberating. It releases the story that inflates the moment. Create a trigger map. Keep a small notebook or a note on the phone and write down incidents that provoke strong reactions. Note the situation, the physical sensations, the thought that immediately followed, and the behavior that came after. Over time, patterns emerge. Perhaps impatience spikes when interrupted, or shame appears when praise is withheld. The map is not a judgment, it is a manual for repair. Once patterns are visible, plan responses tailored to those patterns. If interruptions create anger, prepare a short script. I'll finish this and come back. Or, I need a minute to think. Prepared phrases keep the emotional lid from popping off. Understand the thinking that sits beneath reactions. Emotions are often the mind's shorthand for evaluations. A stinging remark might trigger the belief, I am not enough. A missed invitation might trigger, I am unworthy. These beliefs are rarely objective. They are mental models formed by experience. Challenge them with questions that a Stoic would ask. Is this thought true? What evidence supports it? What evidence contradicts it? What would a wise friend say? This internal interrogation does not kill emotion, it reshapes it. Replace dramatized narratives with factual descriptions. They disagreed with my plan instead of, they judged me as incompetent. Language matters because it forms the emotional muscle. Develop an immediate de-escalation toolkit. When the body signals alarm, use one or more concrete techniques to slow the system. Slow diaphragmatic breathing for 6 breaths calms the nervous system. Grounding exercises, feet on the floor, feeling the chair beneath. Pull attention into the present. A deliberate sip of water changes the rhythm and interrupts escalation. Counting backward from 20 works because it forces the prefrontal cortex to engage. These are not tricks, they are tactical moves to reclaim choice. Practice cognitive reappraisal. Replace automatic interpretations with alternative explanations that are as plausible. If a colleague snaps, consider that they may be tired, overwhelmed, or distracted. If an acquaintance ignores a message, consider that life got busy, not that rejection is personal. Reappraisal does not require overlooking boundary violations or harmful patterns. It simply stops the mind from turning every ambiguous act into a personal slight. This habit reduces emotional volatility and increases clarity about when to act and when to conserve energy. Set clear boundaries and communicate them with calm firmness. Not taking things personally is not a license to accept mistreatment. When actions cross a line, a steady statement of limits is essential. Choose precise language. When meetings start late, it prevents me from finishing my work. I need them to start on time. Or, when private comments are shared publicly, that is not acceptable. Boundaries keep relationships honest and reduce the frequency of triggers occurring in the first place. Build resilience through small exposures. If criticism triggers shame, create controlled practice sessions where feedback is expected and safe. Ask a trusted colleague for blunt, honest comments on a tiny part of work. If the reaction is manageable, repeat with slightly larger stakes. This method, exposure with safety, weakens the trigger's power over time. The goal is not to become indifferent, but to learn that discomfort is temporary and survivable. Practice cognitive distancing by shifting perspective. Consider the long arc. Most daily irritations will be forgotten in a week, a month, or a year. The Stoics trained the mind to view these from a vantage point that reduces heat. Imagine the scene from across the room, or project forward 3 months. Often this view reveals how small the immediate sting truly is. Perspective shrinks the emotional charge and opens room for constructive response. Emotional hygiene is critical. Poor sleep, irregular meals, and chronic stress lower the threshold for triggers. The same comment that could be shrugged off after a good night's sleep becomes a blow when exhausted. Prioritize sleep, nutrition, movement, and brief periods of solitude. These are not indulgences. They are maintenance. A disciplined routine creates stability so reactions are less explosive and decisions are clearer. Use language internally that promotes agency. Replace helpless phrases like, "They made me angry," with "I noticed anger and choose how to respond." Small shifts in grammar matter because they shift locus of control. When responsibility moves inward, power follows. This is not about self-blame, it's about ownership. Owning the emotion gives choice about action. Refusing ownership surrenders control to the environment. Apply immediate, practical steps after a trigger to convert the experience into growth. Write a brief reflection within 24 hours. What happened, what was felt, what was believed, and what can be learned. Identify one small behavioral experiment for the next time. Try a breathing technique, rehearse a boundary statement, or reframe the story. Then revisit the trigger map and note whether the outcome improved. Continuous, modest experiments build mastery over months. Improvement is incremental, not dramatic. Cultivate compassion for the other person without excusing harmful behavior. Recognize that most people act from their own needs, limitations, and fears. This awareness does not negate accountability, but adds nuance. When empathy is present, the inclination to take things personally diminishes, because behavior becomes less about targeting you and more about the other person's internal state. This perspective prevents spirals of resentment and preserves energy for meaningful action. Create a short pre-response ritual for situations that reliably trigger. A single inhale, a soft exhale, and a one-sentence internal reframe works. This is information, not identity. That ritual signals a shift from reaction to response. Over time, the ritual becomes automatic and reduces the frequency and intensity of emotional eruptions. Remember that not taking things personally is not emotional suppression. Feelings are part of being human and deserve attention. The goal is not to eliminate emotion, but to prevent emotion from hijacking judgment. Allow feeling to pass through like weather. Notice the clouds, feel the wind, and keep walking. This steady approach conserves mental energy and increases effectiveness. The final and most important discipline is patience. Changes in emotional reactivity occur through repeated practice and steady observation. Expect setbacks without surrendering. Each moment of noticing instead of reacting is a victory. Each small pause that prevents an explosive reply is an investment in future calm. Over time, fewer events become personal, conversations remain constructive, and inner freedom grows. Understanding triggers and emotional reactions is a practical art. It combines awareness, simple routines, strategic language, and steady exposure. The result is not coldness, but clarity. The ability to feel without being consumed by feeling is a superpower in daily life. It allows clearer decisions, stronger relationships, and a quieter mind. Practice the steps, map the patterns, and respond with purpose. This is the path from being controlled by impulses to being guided by principle. Number 2. Detach ego from daily situations. Ego is the invisible lens that colors every experience. It shapes how success feels, how failure stings, and how other people's words land. Detaching ego from daily situations does not mean losing confidence or humility. It means stepping away from the need to be constantly right, validated, or admired. The ego demands attention and recognition. It whispers that every situation is about you, your image, your worth, your reputation. To detach from it is to regain peace, focus, and emotional control in a world that often provokes insecurity and comparison. The first step toward detachment is to recognize how ego subtly interferes in ordinary moments. It appears when someone interrupts and the mind immediately labels it disrespect. It surfaces when feedback feels like an attack, when being overlooked feels like rejection, when another person's success seems like a personal loss. These reactions drain energy and block learning because they keep attention fixed on self-image instead of understanding. Awareness exposes the ego's disguise. Once seen, it loses some of its hold. When a conversation starts to feel heated, the question to hold silently is, Am I protecting truth or protecting pride? That question alone separates perspective from possession. In daily interactions, the ego acts like a mirror that constantly needs polishing. It thrives on being admired, agreed with, and praised. The problem is that life rarely delivers a steady stream of approval. People disagree, make mistakes, or fail to notice effort. If self-worth depends on these external responses, peace becomes fragile. Detachment means building self-respect that does not swing with others' opinions. Confidence grounded in quiet self-knowledge is stable because it is internal. When someone disagrees, the reaction shifts from defense to curiosity. Maybe they see something I don't. This mindset converts conflict into information rather than insult. Practical detachment starts with observation during minor annoyances. When waiting in line, when cut off in traffic, when a message goes unanswered, these are the training grounds. The ego seeks importance everywhere, even in trivial moments. It says, "They shouldn't treat me this way," yet those words reveal an inflated sense of centrality. The reality is simpler. Life unfolds according to countless causes that have nothing to do with you. Practicing humility in small inconveniences builds resilience for bigger challenges. When frustration arises, shift focus from the self to the situation. Ask, "What is happening?" instead of "Why is this happening to me?" That small change dismantles the ego's habit of personalization. Ego loves comparison. It measures worth by contrast, smarter than, richer than, more admired than. But comparison is a race with no finish line because there is always someone ahead. The wiser approach is to measure progress only against your previous self. Each day offers a chance to refine discipline, improve kindness, and deepen understanding. When others succeed, their success does not diminish yours. It expands what is possible for everyone. Observing others' achievements with genuine appreciation weakens envy, one of the ego's favorite weapons. Detachment also means separating identity from roles. You may be a parent, a leader, an artist, or an employee, but these are functions, not definitions. When roles change or end, ego experiences panic because it confuses doing with being. By remembering that worth exists independent of titles or recognition, transitions become less painful. A stoic mind accepts that positions and opinions are temporary. What endures is character, the inner standard of integrity, discipline, and fairness that does not depend on circumstance. A practical exercise is silent service. Perform a helpful act without announcing it or expecting gratitude. Pay for someone's meal, clean a shared space, or give credit to another person publicly. Acts of service done anonymously weaken the ego's craving for validation and strengthen genuine humility. The satisfaction shifts from being seen to simply doing good. Over time, this practice rewires motivation from external reward to internal alignment. In professional life, detaching ego enhances performance. When projects fail, ego takes it personally and seeks excuses. Without ego, failure becomes feedback. When leadership decisions are criticized, ego fights back. Detachment listens and adapts. A person without ego can collaborate without fear of losing status because they measure success by outcome, not credit. This mindset builds trust and stability in teams because it removes the emotional volatility that ego often creates. Ego also thrives in argument. It turns discussions into battles for superiority. Detachment transforms debate into dialogue. Instead of proving rightness, the focus shifts to discovering truth. The moment the desire to dominate disappears, listening becomes easier. Listening is not passive. It is disciplined awareness that allows understanding to deepen. Responding from calm curiosity instead of wounded pride diffuses tension instantly. The other person senses the absence of resistance and mirrors it, leading to genuine connection. To train this in real time, practice noticing tension during conversations. When the heartbeat quickens or the urge to interrupt arises, that is the ego trying to reassert control. Take a slow breath and remember that the goal is understanding, not victory. Even a single pause in a heated moment weakens the ego's reflex. Over weeks of repetition, this pause grows stronger, and the mind begins to choose peace over proof. Social media intensifies ego attachment by encouraging constant comparison and performance. Detaching means redefining purpose online. Use it as a tool for expression or learning, not validation. Post what aligns with values, not what will earn attention. Resist the loop of checking for reactions. Each time you post and then move on without monitoring feedback, the ego loses a small piece of its control. This self-restraint builds inner freedom that no algorithm can manipulate. In relationships, ego often disguises itself as sensitivity. It demands to be understood before understanding, loved before loving, respected before respecting. Detachment reverses that order. Give what you seek without condition. When kindness is offered freely, the ego's scoreboard becomes irrelevant. This does not mean tolerating disrespect. It means acting from principle rather than pride. Silence, withdrawal, or honest communication may all be right responses depending on context, but each is chosen deliberately, not impulsively. Ego also creates suffering by attaching identity to opinions. When beliefs become fused with self-worth, disagreement feels like attack. A detached mind treats beliefs as hypotheses, useful until proven incomplete. This flexibility keeps learning alive. Changing perspective then becomes a sign of strength, not weakness. The greatest thinkers and leaders evolve because they are loyal to truth, not to their previous opinions. Cultivating detachment requires self-honesty. Notice moments when praise lifts mood disproportionately or criticism ruins a day. Ask why. Often, the reaction reveals hidden dependence on approval. Gradually practice stabilizing emotional energy regardless of feedback. When complimented, say thank you without excessive pride. When criticized, evaluate the content without collapsing. This middle ground is emotional maturity, the ability to hold both acceptance and correction without imbalance. Ego thrives in haste. It pushes to prove, to defend, to react immediately. Patience disarms it. When tension rises, slow down deliberately. Speak slower, move slower, decide slower. This creates mental space for reason to re-enter. Stoic detachment values clarity over speed. A rushed reply often satisfies ego, but damages relationships. A measured response preserves dignity and influence. One effective daily discipline is evening reflection. Before sleep, review the day with calm detachment. Where did pride interfere? Where did humility lead to better outcomes? Write brief notes. Reflection turns experience into learning. Over time, patterns emerge. The ego's habits become predictable, making them easier to manage. Recognizing the pattern before it activates is mastery. Detachment does not eliminate ambition. It refines it. Without ego, ambition transforms from wanting to appear great to wanting to become excellent. The motivation shifts from external recognition to internal fulfillment. Work becomes more focused, creative, and free because it is no longer burdened by the need to impress. True confidence grows silently in the absence of ego. Living without egoic attachment makes daily life lighter. Criticism no longer crushes, praise no longer inflates, and mistakes become opportunities rather than threats. Relationships improve because honesty replaces defensiveness. Work improves because clarity replaces fear. Peace deepens because the constant mental noise of me quiets down. The measure of detachment is not indifference, but stability. You still care deeply, but you no longer crumble or inflate, depending on circumstances. You participate fully in life while remaining centered within yourself. Each time you choose understanding over pride, humility over control, presence over performance, the ego loosens its grip. Over months and years, that loosening becomes liberation. Detaching ego from daily situations is an ongoing practice, not a single victory. It grows through small acts of awareness, humility, and patience repeated across ordinary days. When the mind no longer needs to prove its worth, energy is freed for living wisely, working skillfully, and loving sincerely. In that freedom, peace becomes natural and self-respect unshakable. Number 3. Practice calm responses under pressure. Pressure is an unavoidable part of life. It appears in deadlines, arguments, unexpected setbacks, and moments when the future feels uncertain. While pressure itself is neutral, how one responds to it determines its effect. A calm response under pressure is not the absence of emotion, it is the mastery of it. It is the ability to keep a clear mind when everything around seems loud, rushed, or unstable. This quality separates people who crumble from those who create results. Calmness is not a gift, it is a skill built through awareness, repetition, and conscious restraint. The first step toward calmness in high-pressure moments is understanding the body's automatic response. When stress hits, the nervous system activates a cascade, heart rate rises, breath shortens, muscles tighten. These reactions prepare for fight or flight, which was useful in ancient survival but counterproductive in modern interactions. A sharp tongue, an angry tone, or a hasty decision are today's versions of fight or flight. Practicing calmness begins by reversing that physical sequence. Breathing slowly through the diaphragm sends a signal to the body that there is no danger. Within seconds, the heart steadies and the brain regains clarity. The simplest tool for control is conscious breathing. Slow inhale through the nose, steady exhale through the mouth. It sounds small, but it interrupts chaos before it builds momentum. Calmness under pressure grows stronger with mental rehearsal. Just as athletes visualize performance, preparing mentally for stressful moments rewires how the mind handles intensity. Before an important meeting, confrontation, or presentation, imagine the scene in detail, the sound of voices, the possible reactions, the potential challenges. Picture yourself responding with composure, steady tone, and measured words. The brain begins to recognize this scenario as familiar, reducing the shock when it occurs. Repetition of mental rehearsal transforms composure from a wish into a reflex. In pressure-filled environments, time feels compressed. Decisions seem urgent, and the mind rushes to escape discomfort. Calm people learn to slow perception of time. When faced with tension, they pause before reacting, even if the pause lasts only 2 seconds. That small delay creates room for reason. It is a deliberate act of mental resistance against impulse. Most regret comes not from pressure itself, but from the actions taken in panic. A short silence before speaking, a deep breath before replying, or a quick note before deciding can prevent hours of correction later. This is the discipline of pause, the bridge between emotion and wisdom. Practicing calm responses also requires building tolerance to discomfort. Many people rush to react because the feeling of uncertainty is unbearable. They want relief from the unease of not knowing what comes next. Training calmness means learning to stay in that discomfort without escaping it. Sit in tension without acting immediately. Observe the sensations, the mental chatter, the urge to fix or prove something. With time, the discomfort loses intensity and inner steadiness increases. This capacity, staying composed while uncertain, is the mark of true emotional strength. Calmness is not passivity. It does not mean silence when action is needed. It means acting from clarity, not chaos. When pressure builds, emotions often cloud perception. A calm person asks, "What needs to be solved?" instead of "How do I feel about this?" That shift from emotion to objective assessment is crucial. Calmness channels energy towards solutions instead of reactions. A person who keeps calm can see details others miss, negotiate more effectively, and protect relationships while addressing problems. Building calmness requires daily conditioning, not occasional effort. Start with minor irritations, the slow internet, the traffic jam, the delayed message. These moments are training grounds. When irritation arises, practice breathing evenly, relaxing shoulders, and choosing silence over complaint. The mind becomes used to handling small pressures gracefully, and this practice accumulates strength for larger situations. It's similar to physical exercise. Consistency builds endurance. Calmness grows from small repetitions performed in everyday moments. A practical tool to develop calm response is anchoring. Choose a simple phrase that reinforces stability, such as "stay steady," "handle," "don't hurry," or "clarity first." Repeat it internally during stress. The brain associates the phrase with composure, becoming a mental switch that brings attention back to the present. Anchoring phrases help prevent spirals of anxious thought that make pressure heavier than it is. Another key aspect of calmness is focus. Under stress, attention scatters. The mind jumps between fears of the future and regrets from the past. Calm individuals narrow their focus to what is directly controllable. They ask, "What can I do right now that improves the situation?" By shrinking focus, they regain control and stop wasting energy on speculation. This grounded approach breaks the illusion that everything must be solved immediately. Pressure feels lighter when it is divided into actionable steps. Calm people use structured thinking in chaotic moments. When emotions surge, logic can anchor the mind. A simple method is the three-question check. What is actually happening? What are the facts? Not interpretations. What can I influence? This framework transforms overwhelm into order. The process itself provides stability because the brain prefers structured tasks over emotional confusion. During conflicts or heated exchanges, calmness has the power to influence others. Emotional states are contagious. If one person remains composed while others escalate, tension gradually lowers. The tone of voice, pace of speech, and body language communicate more than words. A steady tone tells others that panic is unnecessary. People trust and follow calm energy because it represents control. In this way, calmness becomes both a personal shield and a leadership tool. Developing this level of composure requires removing the expectation that life will become easier. Pressure will always exist. What changes is capacity. Treat every stressful moment as a test of control, not as punishment. Each challenge faced with composure strengthens confidence for the next one. Over time, what used to cause anxiety now becomes manageable. Growth in calmness happens quietly, but its effects reach every area of life. Emotional neutrality under pressure allows for better communication. In tense conversations, words often lose their meaning when delivered with frustration. Practicing calmness keeps the message clear and tone respectful. When the voice remains steady, even difficult truths can be spoken without causing unnecessary harm. Calm responses also give space for others to process emotions without escalating conflict. Listening fully before responding creates an atmosphere where understanding replaces defensiveness. One effective way to reinforce calmness is through physical grounding. Feel the contact between feet and floor, the weight of the body on a chair, or the rhythm of breathing. These sensations remind the mind that it exists in the present moment, not in imagined catastrophes. Grounding restores perspective, which is often lost under stress. Many moments that seem critical shrink in significance once perspective returns. Another essential practice is simplifying language. Under pressure, people tend to use exaggerated or emotional expressions that intensify stress. Replace dramatic inner talk like "this is a disaster" with neutral observations such as "this is difficult but solvable." Words influence physiology. Calmer language produces calmer feelings. Practicing simple, factual descriptions during tension keeps the mind aligned with reality instead of fear. Calmness thrives in preparation. Many stressful reactions occur because of lack of readiness. Anticipate challenges by creating systems and routines that reduce chaos. Organize tasks, clarify priorities, and maintain realistic expectations. When life is structured, fewer surprises trigger panic. Preparation is an act of self-respect. It prevents avoidable stress and preserves energy for true emergencies. It's also important to learn from moments when calmness was lost. Instead of self-blame, analyze the pattern. What event triggered the reaction? What belief or fear intensified it? What could be done differently next time? Each reflection adds to emotional intelligence. Calmness grows from lessons extracted from mistakes, not from pretending they didn't happen. Develop compassion for yourself while cultivating calmness. Perfection is not the goal. Steadiness is. Sometimes pressure will win, and tempers will rise. What matters is how quickly composure is restored afterward. The faster recovery becomes, the stronger emotional control grows. Self-forgiveness keeps progress sustainable. Discipline without compassion becomes rigidity. Balance keeps growth alive. Calmness under pressure does not come from suppressing emotion, but from organizing it. Emotions carry information about values, priorities, and needs. A calm response acknowledges those signals without letting them dictate behavior. Feelings are processed internally, not projected outward. This internal processing is what creates maturity, the ability to experience emotion without being ruled by it. The true reward of practicing calm responses is freedom. Pressure no longer dictates mood or quality of thought. You remain effective even when circumstances are unstable. People notice and trust grows. Opportunities open because reliability replaces volatility. Calmness is quiet power. The strength to face storms without losing direction. It transforms chaos into clarity and turns reaction into choice. When calm becomes habit, life gains rhythm. Work feels lighter, relationships deepen, and problems shrink in proportion to your composure. The outer world may remain unpredictable, but the inner world becomes steady. Each day offers moments to practice. Each delay, disagreement, or demand is a chance to strengthen calmness. Over time, those moments build an unshakable foundation. Calmness is not an escape from life's noise. It is the sound of control amid it. Number 4. Develop empathy for others' behavior. Empathy is the bridge that connects human experiences. It is the ability to look beyond words and actions, to see the reasons behind them. Developing empathy for others' behavior does not mean excusing wrong choices or tolerating disrespect. It means understanding that everyone acts from their own level of awareness, pain, or need. When empathy becomes a habit, anger loses its dominance, relationships grow steadier, and the mind feels lighter because judgment no longer occupies so much space. True empathy begins with curiosity rather than reaction, asking what might be happening within the other person before deciding how to respond. The foundation of empathy is the realization that behavior is a reflection of inner state. People often act not from logic, but from emotion, fear, or habit. A harsh tone may hide insecurity. Silence may be protection, not rudeness. Overconfidence might mask uncertainty. When you train yourself to see the emotional roots behind behavior, you stop taking things as personal offenses and start viewing them as expressions of human struggle. This change of lens transforms frustration into understanding. You stop seeing enemies and start recognizing people doing their best with the tools they currently have. One of the most effective ways to strengthen empathy is through active observation. Watch how people react under pressure, how their faces change when uncomfortable, and how they speak when they feel unheard. Instead of focusing on what irritates you, shift attention to what they might be feeling. This practice doesn't require you to agree with them, it asks only that you notice. Observation trains emotional intelligence and allows you to respond based on insight, not assumption. To develop empathy, begin by softening your inner dialogue. Harsh internal criticism toward others usually mirrors harshness toward yourself. When you cultivate kindness inwardly, you automatically extend it outward. Practice seeing humanity in others, even in moments of conflict. The colleague who interrupts may be craving validation. The friend who cancels plans may be overwhelmed. When you start considering these possibilities, irritation weakens and understanding expands. Compassion replaces resentment, not through effort, but through awareness. Listening is the most powerful act of empathy. Most people listen to reply. Empathetic people listen to understand. When someone speaks, resist the urge to prepare your response. Focus entirely on their tone, pace, and words. Listen not just to what is said, but to what is meant. Often behind complaints lie unmet needs, and behind anger lies hurt. The moment you begin to see this pattern, conversations change. Arguments de-escalate because one side no longer competes for dominance. The simple act of being heard can dissolve years of misunderstanding. In daily life, empathy can be tested most during disagreement. It is easy to empathize with those who share your views, but challenging with those who oppose them. Practice seeing disagreements as opportunities to stretch your emotional range. Instead of labeling others as wrong, ask, what experiences might lead them to think this way? The question does not erase differences, but it builds respect. Understanding another perspective adds dimension to your own thinking. It reminds you that truth is often layered, not owned. Empathy requires humility. You cannot understand another person while believing you are superior to them. Ego blocks empathy by insisting that your experience is the standard. Humility opens the door by accepting that every person has a unique path that shaped their behavior. When you accept that others operate from their own reality, you gain freedom from unnecessary offense. Their behavior may still be unacceptable, but you handle it with calm reasoning instead of emotional explosion. To build deeper empathy, step outside of personal comfort. Spend time with people whose backgrounds, opinions, or lifestyles differ from yours. Exposure to diversity challenges assumptions and expands compassion. Read books, watch documentaries, or engage in conversations that reveal different human struggles. When you see how varied life can be, it becomes harder to judge quickly. Perspective replaces prejudice, and the heart becomes more open to nuance. Another way to cultivate empathy is through memory. Recall times when you acted poorly because of stress, fear, or exhaustion. Remember how you wished others would understand instead of condemn. Use that memory as a reference when others falter. It reminds you that imperfection is universal. Everyone has moments they regret. Recognizing this common vulnerability creates emotional equality, the foundation of real connection. In leadership and relationships, empathy is an invisible strength. It allows you to anticipate needs, resolve conflicts with fairness, and inspire trust. People naturally follow those who make them feel seen. When you practice empathy, communication becomes smoother because people sense sincerity. They respond not to authority but to authenticity. A calm, understanding approach often achieves what force and argument cannot. In moments of emotional tension, empathy can prevent escalation. When faced with hostility, pause before reacting. Ask silently, what pain might be speaking right now? This question softens your tone and posture, creating space for resolution. It doesn't mean accepting mistreatment. It means choosing awareness over automatic defense. The difference is powerful. You maintain self-respect while protecting peace. Empathy also involves setting boundaries with compassion. Understanding why someone behaves a certain way doesn't mean allowing their behavior to harm you. Healthy empathy balances care for others with care for yourself. You can say no kindly, withdraw without resentment, and still wish them well. This is mature empathy, the ability to see pain without becoming consumed by it. It transforms emotional chaos into balanced understanding. One practical exercise to enhance empathy is role reversal. When frustration builds towards someone, imagine switching places for one day. Picture living with their challenges, their fears, their responsibilities. Visualize waking up with their mindset and circumstances. This mental exercise can dissolve much of the hardness in your heart. It brings hidden struggles into awareness and replaces judgment with perspective. Empathy also grows through patience. Quick conclusions are the enemy of understanding. Take time to know people before deciding what they are. Everyone carries untold stories behind their actions: loss, disappointment, loneliness, pressure. Rushing to label them reduces complexity to caricature. Patience allows truth to unfold slowly, and with it, empathy deepens naturally. Calm observation during conflicts helps reveal emotional signals that words conceal. Notice facial tension, restless hands, or forced laughter. These cues tell more than explanations. Responding gently to those signals can change the direction of an entire conversation. When you treat others' emotions as valid data instead of obstacles, connection replaces misunderstanding. This approach also reduces your own stress because empathy shifts focus outward, breaking the cycle of overthinking personal offense. Empathy is not weakness. It requires strength to stay open in a world that often rewards indifference. It takes courage to remain kind when faced with hostility, to choose understanding over retaliation. The calm person who meets cruelty with composure is not naive. They are powerful. They refuse to surrender control of their character to external negativity. Empathy provides that power because it transforms reaction into reason and pain into patience. To sustain empathy, practice daily reflection. Review interactions at the end of each day. Ask where understanding replaced anger and where it failed to appear. Reflect on moments when someone's words hurt and whether a deeper reason might exist behind them. Over time, this habit builds an intuitive sense of others' emotions. You begin to predict reactions, sense tension earlier, and respond more skillfully. A significant part of empathy is learning to accept complexity in human behavior. People can be kind and flawed, generous and selfish, brave and afraid, all in the same day. Holding these contradictions without judgment is advanced empathy. It removes the need to categorize people as good or bad, and allows you to deal with them as evolving beings. This maturity reduces disappointment because you no longer expect perfection from anyone, including yourself. Empathy becomes a source of peace when it turns into a way of seeing rather than a task to perform. You stop expecting everyone to match your pace or values. You start recognizing that growth happens differently for each person. Instead of reacting to their shortcomings, you focus on preserving your own integrity. Life is simpler when you stop demanding others to think, feel, or act the way you do. Developing empathy for others' behavior transforms relationships from transactional to meaningful. It nurtures patience, deepens understanding, and dissolves unnecessary conflict. Each time you choose empathy over irritation, you strengthen emotional wisdom. You begin to move through the world with softer edges and sharper insight. People trust you more because they feel safe around you. And within yourself, peace takes root because empathy leaves no room for bitterness. It turns life into a shared experience instead of a constant competition. Empathy does not make you smaller, it makes you vast enough to hold humanity in its full complexity without losing your balance. Number 5. Focus only on controllable actions. Focusing only on controllable actions is one of the most freeing habits you can ever build. It means letting go of what is outside your reach and using all your effort only where it truly counts. Most of the stress and frustration people feel every day come from trying to manage things they never had power over in the first place: what others think, how someone reacts, or how life unfolds. The more you attempt to control the uncontrollable, the more powerless you feel. Real calm begins the moment you decide to direct your attention toward what is actually within your influence: your choices, your behavior, and your mindset. To practice this, start by identifying what truly belongs to you. Your thoughts, your words, your reactions, your daily habits, your time, and your attitude. These are all under your control. Everything else, including other people's moods, decisions, or opinions, is not. Once this distinction becomes clear, your energy stops being scattered. You start responding instead of worrying. You begin to see that peace is not found in controlling the world, but in mastering yourself within it. This idea sounds simple, but takes real effort to apply. Life constantly tests your boundaries. Someone criticizes you unfairly. A plan falls apart. Traffic wastes your time. These small frustrations are perfect lessons in focusing on controllable actions. In every challenge, ask one question: what can I do right now that's within my control? Maybe you can't change the traffic, but you can change your attitude while sitting there. Maybe you can't make someone like you, but you can maintain kindness and self-respect. This question redirects your mind away from chaos and back to clarity. People often mistake control for strength, but real strength lies in knowing what to release. It takes courage to say, "This part is not mine to fix." When you stop chasing control, you regain emotional balance. You sleep better, think clearer, and waste less time arguing with reality. You begin to focus on effort, not outcome. The truth is, no one can guarantee results, but everyone can guarantee effort. When your self-worth depends on what you can control, you remain steady regardless of what happens outside. Learning to focus on controllable actions is also the foundation of emotional resilience. It trains your mind to stop spiraling when life throws surprises. Instead of overthinking every problem, you take small, practical steps. You learn to adapt. Suppose you face rejection or failure. Instead of obsessing over why it happened, you look at what you can improve next time. This mindset keeps you moving forward. Growth happens not because everything goes right, but because you stay active where you still have power. Another important aspect is accepting uncertainty. Many people waste years trying to eliminate uncertainty, but life will never be predictable. The only thing you can control is how you show up when uncertainty appears. Acceptance is not weakness, it's clarity. It allows you to prepare without panic, plan without rigidity, and act without fear. The more you practice acceptance, the lighter you feel. It's like releasing a heavy backpack you didn't realize you were carrying. Daily life offers countless opportunities to apply this principle. When dealing with others, for example, you cannot control how they behave, but you can control how you respond. You can choose patience instead of irritation, honesty instead of avoidance, and calmness instead of defensiveness. When working on goals, you cannot control timing or outcomes, but you can control consistency, learning, and effort. When managing stress, you cannot control external noise, but you can control your focus and breathing. Every situation becomes simpler once you separate what's yours from what's not. One powerful exercise is to make two mental boxes, one labeled mine and another labeled not mine. When something troubles you, place it in one of the boxes. If it's mine, act on it immediately or plan a step. If it's not mine, let it go. It may sound simple, but it trains your mind to stop holding on to unnecessary worries. The more you practice this separation, the less mental clutter you carry. Many conflicts in relationships happen because people try to control each other's behavior. They believe peace will come only if others change. But trying to control someone's thoughts or emotions always leads to frustration. Instead, focus on your own communication, tone, and choices. You can express how you feel without demanding a certain reaction. When you shift focus from control to influence, connection improves. People trust and respect those who don't force them. Focusing on controllable actions also sharpens productivity. It prevents you from wasting time on distractions. When you stop worrying about outcomes, you give full attention to the process. You complete tasks faster and with better quality because your mind isn't trapped in what-ifs. This focus builds momentum, and momentum builds results. Ironically, when you stop obsessing over results, better results appear naturally. Emotionally, this mindset protects your peace. Whenever something doesn't go as planned, instead of reacting emotionally, you pause and check what you can still do. This pause creates space between event and reaction, a moment where calm thinking replaces impulsive emotion. With practice, that pause becomes your default response. It's how you stay centered even in stressful moments. In times of crisis, focusing on controllable actions gives you direction when everything else feels uncertain. Imagine facing sudden loss, disappointment, or failure. You can't control the event, but you can control your attitude toward it. You can choose to learn, to rebuild, to stay kind to yourself. This choice keeps you functional when others freeze in helplessness. Focusing on controllable actions doesn't make problems disappear, but it prevents them from destroying your mental state. It's also important to remember that focusing on what you can control doesn't mean avoiding responsibility. It means defining it clearly. Taking responsibility for your own actions is not the same as taking responsibility for everyone's feelings or outcomes. This distinction saves you from guilt and burnout. You learn to contribute without overextending, to help without losing balance. Practicing gratitude is another effective way to reinforce this mindset. Gratitude redirects your attention to what's already within your reach. It keeps your mind grounded in the present instead of drifting into fear about what might happen. Each day, remind yourself of what you do control: your effort, your mindset, your honesty, your compassion, your health choices, your work ethic. These are the real levers of progress. Everything else is noise. Over time, focusing on controllable actions builds self-trust. You begin to see evidence that your choices matter. You stop depending on luck or approval to feel capable. Each time you take ownership of your response, your confidence strengthens. Even when life feels unstable, you trust that you can handle it, because you've built discipline in the one place where control actually exists, yourself. This mindset also reduces conflict with others. When you no longer try to manage people's reactions, conversations become calmer. You stop needing everyone to agree with you. You express your point clearly, listen openly, and move on peacefully. You understand that peace doesn't come from winning arguments. It comes from emotional self-control. To live this principle fully, remind yourself daily that not every battle deserves your energy. Some things resolve themselves with time, others never will, but your peace doesn't have to depend on either. What matters is whether you did what you could with honesty and effort. That's enough. Learning to say "I've done my part" and truly mean it is one of the most liberating skills you can ever master. When you focus only on controllable actions, you start experiencing a quieter kind of confidence. You stop rushing to fix everything and instead respond with calm purpose. You stop expecting life to bend to your will and start adapting intelligently. This shift turns stress into structure, chaos into clarity. It doesn't make life easy. It makes you effective. At the heart of it, focusing on what you can control is about respect. Respect for your energy, your time, and your peace. It's a daily commitment to direct effort where it matters and release what doesn't. Each moment you choose focus over frustration, you reclaim power from the things that once controlled you, and the more consistently you practice this, the lighter, calmer, and stronger you become. Life will always be unpredictable, but when your attention stays anchored in what's truly yours, you carry stability within you no matter where you stand. Number 6. Use mindfulness to stay centered. Staying centered through mindfulness is about learning how to live with awareness rather than reaction. It means being fully present in each moment, instead of drifting between worries about the future and regrets from the past. The modern world constantly pulls your attention in every direction. Messages, tasks, notifications, expectations, noise. Without mindfulness, it's easy to get lost in this endless stream and forget what truly matters. But when you train your attention to return to the present moment, you discover a calm space inside yourself that nothing external can disturb. This inner stillness doesn't mean you stop caring about life. It means you stop letting chaos control your emotions. Mindfulness begins with simple awareness, paying attention to what's happening right now without judgment. It could be the rhythm of your breathing, the sensations in your body, or the sound of your surroundings. The purpose isn't to escape your thoughts, but to observe them as they are. Most stress comes from being entangled with every thought that passes through the mind. Mindfulness teaches you to notice thoughts like clouds passing through the sky, present for a moment, then gone. The more you practice noticing without reacting, the more space you create between stimulus and response. That space is where peace lives. Staying centered requires consistency. The mind naturally wanders, but each time you bring it back to the present, you strengthen self-control. Even small moments of awareness during the day, pausing before replying to someone, taking a deep breath before a decision, noticing how your body feels after a long conversation, build inner stability. It's not about perfection, it's about returning again and again to that quiet center within you. The discipline of returning is what changes you. When you are mindful, you stop running on autopilot. You begin to see patterns in your reactions, habits, and emotions. You notice when irritation builds before it explodes. You recognize when your mind is creating imaginary problems that don't exist yet. Awareness interrupts the cycle of unconscious behavior. It gives you the power to choose a better response. For instance, instead of snapping when frustrated, you pause, breathe, and respond calmly. That pause, created through mindfulness, prevents regret and keeps your energy balanced. Mindfulness also improves focus. Most people spend their days scattered, jumping from one distraction to another, never truly engaged in anything. But when you train your mind to stay with what's in front of you, listening to a person, completing a task, or eating a meal, you become more efficient, calm, and fulfilled. You stop feeling like life is slipping through your fingers because you're actually living it. You start realizing that peace doesn't come from escaping your responsibilities. It comes from being fully present while handling them. Practicing mindfulness also changes your relationship with discomfort. Instead of trying to push away unpleasant feelings, you learn to face them with curiosity. When you sit with anger, sadness, or fear without judging them, you discover that emotions are temporary waves, not permanent storms. They rise, peak, and fall naturally if you don't fuel them with resistance. This awareness transforms suffering into understanding. You start seeing emotions as signals, not enemies, each one teaching you something about your inner state. The simplest way to practice mindfulness is through conscious breathing. Your breath is always with you, always happening now. Paying attention to it instantly anchors your awareness in the present moment. You can practice this anywhere while walking, working, or resting. Just notice the inhale and the exhale without trying to control them. Feel the air move in and out. When your mind drifts, gently bring it back to the breath. This practice may seem small, but it reshapes how you experience stress. Breathing consciously during moments of tension keeps your body calm and your mind alert. Another effective method is mindful observation. Choose an ordinary activity and do it with complete attention. Washing dishes, drinking tea, writing a message. Feel every movement, every sound, every detail. When you give something your full awareness, even the simplest act becomes meaningful. This trains your brain to focus deeply, which helps you stay centered even when facing complex or emotional situations. Over time, mindfulness spills into every part of life, not just meditation. It becomes the way you think, feel, and act. In communication, mindfulness allows you to listen without judgment. Instead of preparing your reply while someone is talking, you focus on understanding them fully. This presence makes others feel valued and heard, improving relationships and reducing conflict. You also become more aware of your tone, words, and timing, which prevents misunderstandings. A mindful person speaks less impulsively and listens more intentionally, creating trust and calm wherever they go. Mindfulness also strengthens emotional intelligence. By observing your feelings as they arise, you begin to understand why you react in certain ways. You see how stress triggers tension in your body, or how worry shows up as restlessness. This awareness helps you catch emotions early before they take control. You stop identifying with every passing mood and instead become a steady observer of them. The mind may generate storms, but you remain the sky that holds them all. Many people believe mindfulness means having no thoughts, but that's not true. It's about noticing thoughts without losing yourself in them. You don't have to silence the mind. You just stop letting it dictate your emotional state. When you watch your thoughts from a distance, you realize how many of them are repetitive and unnecessary. You learn to give attention only to those that serve you. This quiet filtering process restores mental clarity. Staying centered through mindfulness also helps you make better decisions. When your mind is calm, you see situations more clearly. You stop reacting based on fear or pride and start responding with balance. Whether it's handling a challenge at work, resolving conflict, or facing change, mindfulness keeps your judgment sharp. You recognize what matters and what doesn't, saving yourself from wasted effort and emotional drain. Mindfulness doesn't remove pain from life, but it removes unnecessary suffering. Pain is inevitable. Loss, mistakes, disappointment happen to everyone. But suffering is amplified when you resist what is or replay the past endlessly in your head. Mindfulness teaches acceptance, not passive resignation, but understanding reality as it is before deciding what to do about it. That clarity helps you act effectively instead of reacting blindly. Integrating mindfulness into daily routines takes intention. You can begin your day with a short pause, simply breathing before reaching for your phone. Throughout the day, practice awareness by checking in with yourself. How are you feeling? What are you thinking? Where is your attention? At night, reflect on your day without judgment, noticing what went well and what didn't. This gentle reflection helps you close each day with calm rather than mental noise. Being mindful also enhances your appreciation of life's small details. You start noticing things you once ignored. The softness of the morning light, the warmth of a cup in your hands, the sound of rain against the window. These moments remind you that joy is found not in chasing big events, but in being awake to the present. Gratitude becomes natural when you actually see what's around you. Over time, mindfulness builds resilience. When life becomes unpredictable, your ability to stay grounded prevents panic. You learn to handle uncertainty with patience. You don't collapse when things go wrong because your mind has practiced staying steady through discomfort. Mindfulness gives you the flexibility to bend without breaking, to adjust without losing balance. This stability becomes your quiet strength. Even in solitude, mindfulness becomes a source of peace. Instead of feeling lonely, you become comfortable in your own presence. You realize that silence isn't empty, it's full of understanding. Moments of stillness become opportunities for renewal rather than boredom. This deeper connection with yourself strengthens your sense of purpose and direction. Ultimately, mindfulness is the practice of being alive on purpose. It's about choosing awareness over distraction, calm over chaos, and presence over autopilot living. The more you practice it, the more life slows down. Not because time changes, but because your perception deepens. You begin to move through the world with a quiet confidence that comes from knowing that no matter what happens outside, you can return to the steady center within you. And from that center, every decision, word, and action becomes more deliberate, more peaceful, and more aligned with the life you truly want to live. Number 7. Build confidence through self-awareness. True confidence doesn't come from pretending to be strong, loud, or certain all the time. It begins quietly, deep within, through the practice of self-awareness. It grows when you understand who you are, what you value, and how you truly feel. Many people try to build confidence by focusing on appearances, achievements, or approval from others. But those things are fragile. They can disappear the moment circumstances change. Real confidence, the kind that lasts through failure and rejection, is rooted in self-awareness, the honest understanding of your strengths, limits, emotions, and patterns. When you know yourself, you stop needing constant validation because you already have inner clarity. Self-awareness is not about self-criticism or overthinking. It's about learning to see yourself clearly without judgment. It's the courage to look within and accept both your light and your flaws. You can't grow from what you refuse to see. Confidence begins when you stop hiding from your truth. When you acknowledge your insecurities instead of pretending they don't exist, they lose their power over you. Self-awareness is not comfortable, but it is freeing. It replaces confusion with understanding, and that understanding gives you direction. One of the first steps to developing self-awareness is to observe your thoughts and behaviors without reacting to them. Notice what situations make you feel anxious, defensive, or angry. Pay attention to when you feel energized and alive. These emotional cues reveal your inner wiring. Instead of labeling them as good or bad, see them as signals. Each reaction points to something deeper, a belief, a fear, or a desire that shapes how you experience life. When you recognize these patterns, you gain control over them. Instead of letting them control you, awareness turns emotional triggers into opportunities for growth. Confidence built on self-awareness grows naturally because it's not about trying to be someone else. It's about aligning with your authentic self. When you act from understanding instead of imitation, your actions feel congruent with who you are. This alignment makes you steady even when others disagree with you. You no longer need to force confidence. It shows up effortlessly because it's real. People are drawn to those who are grounded in self-awareness because such individuals radiate calm and integrity. To develop this awareness, reflection is essential. Spend time each day thinking about how you responded to different situations. Ask yourself why you reacted the way you did. Were you defensive because you felt judged? Did you agree with someone just to avoid conflict? Did you stay silent when you wanted to speak up? These small moments of honesty reveal your deeper motivations. Confidence grows every time you choose to understand instead of avoid. You start to see that your feelings are messages, not weaknesses. They help you identify what truly matters to you. Self-awareness also involves knowing your strengths and using them with intention. Too often, people focus only on fixing their flaws while ignoring their natural abilities. Confidence doesn't come from perfection, it comes from competence. When you understand what you're good at and develop it further, you gain trust in your own abilities. Whether it's creativity, communication, problem-solving, or empathy, your strengths are tools. Using them wisely gives you momentum and satisfaction. The more you use your strengths, the more capable you feel, and capability naturally turns into confidence. Another powerful aspect of self-awareness is understanding your values. Values are the compass that keeps your confidence stable even when life is unpredictable. When you know what principles guide you, honesty, kindness, discipline, or courage, you stop feeling lost when others challenge your path. You can make decisions confidently because they align with your inner truth. Without clear values, confidence becomes fragile, easily shaken by opinions or criticism. But when you live by your principles, even mistakes feel meaningful because they were made consciously. Building confidence through self-awareness also requires accepting imperfections. Many people delay their self-worth until they become flawless, but that moment never arrives. Confidence doesn't mean being perfect, it means being comfortable with imperfection. When you stop fighting your flaws, they stop defining you. You begin to treat yourself with compassion instead of harshness. This self-kindness quiets the fear of failure, which is one of the biggest enemies of confidence. Every time you choose self-acceptance over self-rejection, you strengthen your emotional foundation. Self-awareness also deepens through solitude. In silence, away from distractions, you can listen to your inner voice clearly. You start noticing what feels right and what drains you. Solitude isn't loneliness, it's self-connection. The more time you spend understanding your thoughts without external noise, the more stable your self-esteem becomes. You stop chasing comparisons because you realize everyone's journey is unique. Comparison fades when you're deeply aware of your own path. Feedback from others can also expand self-awareness, but it must be handled with wisdom. Listen openly to constructive input without letting it damage your sense of worth. Confidence allows you to accept feedback as information, not as a personal attack. It helps you grow while staying anchored in your identity. When you know yourself well, you can evaluate others' opinions objectively, keeping what helps and discarding what doesn't. That selective listening keeps your confidence balanced between humility and self-respect. Practicing mindfulness enhances self-awareness too. By observing your thoughts and emotions in real time, you notice how external situations influence your inner world. You begin to recognize when your mind drifts into insecurity or doubt. Instead of suppressing these feelings, mindfulness teaches you to sit with them calmly. This presence helps you make deliberate choices rather than impulsive reactions. Confidence becomes a byproduct of living consciously. The more aware you are, the less you rely on others to define your value. Body awareness plays a role as well. Notice how your posture, breathing, and tone change with your emotions. When you feel uncertain, your body often contracts. When you feel confident, it expands. By consciously adjusting your posture, standing tall, breathing deeply, speaking clearly, you signal confidence to both your mind and others. This isn't about pretending, it's about aligning your body and mind in harmony. The body and the mind influence each other constantly, and self-awareness helps you manage that connection intentionally. Another layer of building confidence through self-awareness is learning from experience without shame. Every mistake holds valuable insight if you're willing to examine it calmly. Instead of replaying errors in your head, ask what they're teaching you. Each lesson you extract becomes a piece of wisdom that strengthens your inner foundation. Confidence doesn't come from always being right. It comes from knowing you can recover, learn, and adapt when you're wrong. Self-aware individuals view setbacks as feedback, not failure. It's also important to recognize the difference between confidence and arrogance. Confidence rooted in self-awareness is humble. It doesn't need to prove superiority. It's secure in its own identity. Arrogance, on the other hand, comes from insecurity disguised as strength. The self-aware person respects others because they understand their own humanity. They don't seek to dominate conversations or display knowledge. They listen, learn, and grow. Real confidence is quiet, steady, and grounded. It doesn't demand attention, it earns it naturally. Self-awareness teaches emotional control, another vital part of confidence. When you understand what triggers your emotions, you can respond instead of react. For example, if criticism makes you defensive, awareness allows you to pause and reflect instead of attacking back. That pause displays maturity, not weakness. The ability to stay composed under emotional pressure is one of the clearest signs of true confidence. It shows that you are guided by understanding rather than ego. Self-awareness also improves your sense of purpose. When you understand what gives your life meaning, your actions gain direction. You stop wasting energy chasing things that don't fulfill you. This sense of purpose creates natural confidence because your life feels aligned with your values and vision. You don't have to prove anything, you simply express who you are through what you do. That authenticity attracts respect and trust from others. Over time, self-awareness transforms how you view yourself and the world. You begin to see that confidence isn't something you acquire once and keep forever. It's something you nurture daily through honesty and reflection. Every time you make a decision aligned with your true self, confidence deepens. Every time you forgive yourself for a mistake instead of judging harshly, confidence strengthens. Every time you acknowledge both your strengths and vulnerabilities without hiding either, confidence becomes more natural. In the end, building confidence through self-awareness is about owning your story completely. It's about standing in your truth without shrinking or pretending. It's the steady assurance that comes from knowing you are both a work in progress and a person of worth. You no longer need the world to tell you who you are because you've already taken the time to find out. That quiet certainty within you becomes your anchor in every situation, strong, calm, and unshakable. Number 8. Stop assuming negative hidden intentions. One of the biggest reasons people take things personally is because they assume others have negative hidden intentions behind their words or actions. When someone forgets to reply to a message, gives short feedback, or doesn't seem enthusiastic, we often create a story in our mind that they're being rude, dismissive, or trying to hurt us. This habit of assuming the worst creates unnecessary emotional pain. It drains your energy, clouds your judgment, and makes relationships more stressful than they need to be. Learning to stop assuming negative motives is one of the most freeing skills you can develop for your peace of mind. Most people don't mean as much as you think they do. They're often caught up in their own world, worries and responsibilities. The truth is, people are not constantly thinking about you the way you imagine. The coworker who didn't smile might be having a hard day. The friend who cancelled plans could be exhausted or overwhelmed. The family member who disagreed with you may just see things differently, not because they want to attack you. When you stop assuming hidden negativity, you start seeing people more accurately. It allows you to respond with calmness instead of defensiveness. The mind naturally tries to fill in gaps when information is missing. If you don't know why someone acted a certain way, your brain quickly creates a story to explain it. Unfortunately, if you've been hurt or rejected before, your brain often fills those gaps with negativity. You assume that others must be judging, rejecting, or trying to insult you. This mental pattern becomes automatic, so you interpret neutral situations as personal attacks. Recognizing this tendency is the first step to breaking it. Instead of believing the first story your mind tells, pause and question it. Ask yourself, is there another possible reason for their behavior? This small shift can completely change how you feel. For example, imagine your boss gives you short feedback on your work and walks away quickly. Your instinct might say, they're disappointed in me, but if you take a breath and challenge that thought, you might realize they were just busy, distracted, or preoccupied. When you don't jump to negative conclusions, you save yourself from hours of unnecessary worry. Most of our stress doesn't come from what others do, but from what we think they mean by it. The mind exaggerates meaning, and emotional balance comes from recognizing that your thoughts aren't always facts. Another helpful practice is to give others the benefit of the doubt. This doesn't mean ignoring harmful behavior or being naive. It means not rushing to assume bad intentions before having proof. Maybe the person who didn't greet you was distracted. Maybe the partner who seemed distant is dealing with personal stress. When you replace automatic suspicion with curiosity, you open the door for better understanding. You stop reacting based on emotion and start responding based on reason. If you notice a pattern of assuming the worst, it often points to a deeper insecurity or fear of rejection. When your self-worth depends on others' approval, you'll interpret every neutral action as potential rejection. The more you strengthen your self-esteem, the less likely you'll see hidden negativity where none exists. Confident people don't take things personally because they trust their own value. They know someone's behavior says more about that person's state than their own worth. Developing emotional independence frees you from overanalyzing every interaction. Communication also plays a powerful role in breaking this habit. Instead of silently assuming, ask for clarification when something feels off. If a friend seems distant, you could gently ask, "Hey, is everything okay?" Instead of guessing, you get the truth directly. Often, you'll realize that what you imagined was completely different from reality. Open communication eliminates unnecessary misunderstandings and helps you maintain healthy relationships. It's far better to ask once than to suffer from endless assumptions. You can also practice emotional detachment by understanding that everyone filters experiences through their own emotions, stress, and mindset. If someone snaps or criticizes you, it's often a reflection of their inner world, not an accurate evaluation of you. Maybe they're tired, insecure, or frustrated. By remembering this, you can step back emotionally instead of taking it personally. Detachment doesn't mean you don't care. It means you choose not to internalize others' temporary moods as your truth. When you assume negative hidden intentions, you give away your emotional stability to other people's unpredictable behavior. You allow your peace to depend on how others act, which makes you reactive and tense. But when you stay grounded in understanding and patience, you keep your power. You stop letting external noise disturb your inner calm. Emotional maturity means being able to observe without immediately judging or reacting. It's about choosing peace over the need to interpret everything as personal. To build this mindset, practice catching yourself in the moment. The next time someone's words sting, stop and ask, do I have solid proof they meant to hurt me, or am I filling in the blanks with my own fears? This simple question creates space between stimulus and reaction. That space is where your freedom lies. It gives you a chance to think logically before letting emotions take over. Over time, this habit rewires your brain to pause instead of panic. It also helps to remember that assumptions are stories your mind creates, not facts. You can't read minds, and trying to do so only leads to stress. Everyone views the world through their own perspective, which means misunderstandings are normal. When you let go of the need to interpret every tone, text, or expression, life becomes lighter. Not everything needs to mean something deep. Sometimes people are just being people, imperfect, distracted, and human. Learning to stop assuming hidden negativity also improves empathy. When you realize that everyone is dealing with invisible struggles, you respond with compassion instead of suspicion. Maybe the person who cut you off in traffic is rushing to the hospital. Maybe the colleague who snapped is under pressure. Instead of labeling others as rude or insensitive, you start to understand that behavior often comes from pain, not malice. Empathy protects your peace because it helps you see situations with perspective rather than ego. You can strengthen this perspective by reflecting on times you acted poorly when you were upset or stressed. Remember how your actions didn't come from cruelty, but from frustration or exhaustion. If you can give yourself that understanding, you can extend it to others too. This balance between awareness and compassion makes you emotionally strong and less reactive. Another strategy is to slow down your interpretations. Don't jump to emotional conclusions. Take a deep breath before responding to someone's tone or message. Sometimes the difference between peace and conflict is just one pause. Let silence become your strength. You don't need to analyze everything immediately. Give things time to reveal their real meaning. Often, what feels offensive in the moment turns out to be harmless once emotions settle. It's also useful to remember that you can control your perspective, not others' actions. You can choose to believe that people are generally doing their best, even when it doesn't look perfect. That belief softens your mind and heart. It helps you live with less tension and more understanding. When you stop searching for hidden negativity, you start noticing kindness, patience, and genuine intentions that you might have missed before. Building this mindset takes practice. At first, your mind will still create negative interpretations, because that's what it's used to. But with awareness and patience, you can retrain your thinking. Each time you stop and challenge a negative assumption, you build emotional strength. Over time, you'll find that fewer things bother you. You'll feel lighter because you no longer carry the weight of imaginary conflicts. The goal isn't to become indifferent, it's to become wise. You still notice behavior, but you don't attach false meaning to it. You stop personalizing every small act. You learn to respond based on truth instead of fear. This emotional discipline brings calmness, clarity, and inner freedom. You become less reactive and more centered because you understand that not everything revolves around you. When you stop assuming negative hidden intentions, relationships improve naturally. You argue less, misunderstand less, and connect more genuinely. People feel safer around you because you don't misinterpret their actions. Your presence becomes peaceful, and your energy feels balanced. Instead of reacting defensively, you start engaging thoughtfully. You no longer need constant reassurance because you trust your own perception. In the end, life becomes far simpler when you stop assuming the worst. You gain mental space, emotional balance, and genuine peace. You start noticing that most people are not trying to hurt or insult you. They're just trying to navigate their own struggles. And when you understand that, nothing feels as personal anymore. The world becomes a kinder place, not because everyone changes, but because you've changed the way you see them. Number 9. Learn emotional boundaries and balance. Learning emotional boundaries and balance is essential for living a life that is both peaceful and purposeful. Many people struggle because they allow external circumstances, other people's moods, or even fleeting thoughts to dictate how they feel. Emotional boundaries are the invisible lines that protect your inner state from being hijacked by outside influences. They are not walls to isolate yourself from the world, but shields that let you engage fully without losing control. When you understand where your emotions end and others begin, you gain the freedom to act intentionally rather than react unconsciously. The first step in establishing emotional boundaries is recognizing that your feelings are yours alone. No one can make you feel a certain way unless you allow it. Someone may speak harshly, ignore you, or criticize your work, but their behavior only affects you to the degree you interpret it as truth about yourself. Awareness of this principle shifts responsibility for your emotional state back into your own hands. You stop blaming others for your anxiety, anger, or sadness, and you begin to see yourself as the primary steward of your feelings. Balance is closely connected to boundaries, because without it, emotions can dominate, distort thinking, and drive decisions impulsively. Emotional balance means experiencing feelings fully without letting them control your actions. It allows you to be present with joy, disappointment, frustration, or excitement without losing clarity. When you maintain balance, you no longer oscillate wildly between extremes. You can feel deeply and authentically while staying centered. This creates stability in both personal and professional relationships because people sense the calm and reasoned energy you carry. A practical way to develop emotional boundaries is through self-observation. Pay attention to which situations consistently trigger strong reactions. Notice whether those reactions come from your own unmet needs or from assuming responsibility for someone else's emotions. For instance, if a colleague's criticism causes anger or hurt, examine whether it challenges your values or whether you are internalizing their frustration as a reflection of your worth. Awareness in these moments prevents automatic reactivity. You begin to respond from choice rather than impulse, which strengthens both boundaries and balance. Another technique is to define what is acceptable for you and communicate it clearly. This doesn't mean being rigid or controlling others. It means expressing your limits in a respectful, assertive way. For example, if a friend repeatedly belittles your choices, you might say, "I value our friendship, but I don't find criticism helpful in this conversation." Clear communication reinforces boundaries and models self-respect, which naturally encourages others to treat you with consideration. Boundaries are less about pushing people away and more about preserving your energy and dignity. Emotional balance is nurtured by grounding practices that reconnect you with the present. When emotions threaten to overwhelm, pause and focus on physical sensations, your breathing, posture, or surroundings. Deep, steady breaths calm the nervous system, allowing you to respond rationally rather than react defensively. Mindfulness, journaling, or even a brief walk can reset emotional equilibrium. By consistently practicing these tools, you learn to regulate emotions before they spill over into conflict or self-doubt. Part of emotional boundaries involves learning when to engage and when to step back. Not every argument, complaint or crisis requires your full energy. You can care without absorbing the emotional weight of every situation. This discernment is key to maintaining balance. People often exhaust themselves by trying to fix everyone else's problems, becoming reactive, resentful, or burnt out. Healthy boundaries let you contribute effectively without sacrificing your own stability. You give thoughtfully and withdraw when needed, creating sustainable emotional engagement. Self-awareness strengthens both boundaries and balance. Recognizing your triggers, values, and patterns allows you to respond intentionally instead of automatically. For instance, if you know that certain topics cause frustration or anxiety, you can prepare strategies to stay grounded or redirect conversations. Emotional intelligence grows as you observe reactions without judgment, learning which battles to engage in and which to release. The more conscious you become of your internal landscape, the less external chaos can sway you. Boundaries are also about managing expectations, both your own and others. You must accept that you cannot control how people think, feel, or act. Expecting others to behave perfectly or according to your preferences leads to disappointment and emotional imbalance. Instead, focus on your choices, reactions, and effort. By honoring your own limits and respecting others' autonomy, you create relationships built on mutual understanding rather than codependence or conflict. Emotional balance thrives in this environment. Learning to detach from drama is another essential aspect. Life will present challenges, disagreements, and tension, but choosing how much emotional energy you invest makes all the difference. Observe situations objectively, noticing facts separate from assumptions, and respond only where your action matters. Detachment does not mean indifference. It means maintaining perspective, acting wisely, and protecting your internal state. It prevents minor conflicts from escalating into long-term stress or resentment. Practicing empathy alongside boundaries enhances balance. Understanding others' struggles, pressures, and emotions allows you to interact with compassion while maintaining your own stability. You can support without absorbing the pain, offer guidance without taking responsibility for outcomes, and listen without losing clarity. Balanced empathy prevents emotional exhaustion and fosters healthier, more resilient connections. Emotional balance also involves self-care. Physical health, sleep, nutrition, and relaxation influence emotional stability significantly. When the body is overtaxed, the mind becomes reactive, making boundaries harder to maintain. Investing in self-care reinforces resilience, allowing you to stay grounded even in challenging circumstances. Balance is sustained when the mind, body, and emotions are aligned. Journaling can reinforce awareness of boundaries and balance. Writing about situations that challenge you helps identify recurring patterns, triggers, and emotional reactions. Reflecting on what was within your control and what wasn't provides clarity for future interactions. Journaling is a private space to explore feelings without judgment and develop strategies for maintaining emotional equilibrium. It transforms chaotic experiences into structured insight. Setting emotional boundaries requires repetition and consistency. It is not a one-time decision, but a continuous practice. Every day presents situations that test limits, whether in relationships, work, or social settings. Each time you respond intentionally rather than react automatically, you reinforce your boundaries and deepen emotional balance. Over time, this consistency builds inner strength, resilience, and calm. Recognizing manipulation or unhealthy influence is part of boundary work. Some individuals may push emotional buttons to provoke reactions or gain control. Awareness of such patterns allows you to protect yourself while responding appropriately. You can maintain compassion while refusing to be drawn into destructive dynamics. Emotional strength grows when you assert your limits firmly and without aggression. Balance is also about pacing yourself. Life is full of highs and lows, victories and setbacks. Experiencing emotion fully without becoming consumed is key. Celebrate success with joy, but without arrogance. Encounter disappointment with reflection, but without despair. Balanced emotions allow you to maintain perspective, navigate challenges effectively, and sustain long-term focus. Developing these skills improves every area of life. Relationships become less draining and more authentic. Work performance improves because emotional reactivity no longer interferes with decision-making. Self-esteem grows because you honor your own needs without guilt. Mental clarity increases, reducing stress and allowing more effective problem-solving. Emotional boundaries and balance create freedom. The freedom to feel fully without losing control, the freedom to care without absorbing, and the freedom to act with calm intention. Ultimately, learning emotional boundaries and balance is a practice of self-mastery. It is the recognition that your peace, clarity, and energy are yours to protect. It requires honesty, discipline, and courage to say no when necessary, to detach without withdrawing, and to engage without losing yourself. Each time you honor your emotional limits and maintain balance, you reinforce a life of stability, resilience, and purposeful action. Through this practice, you cultivate the ability to navigate the world with calm strength, respond thoughtfully rather than react impulsively, and create a life that feels steady, intentional, and fully alive. Number 10. Respond thoughtfully, not emotionally. Responding thoughtfully instead of emotionally is one of the most powerful skills you can cultivate for personal and professional life. Every day presents countless opportunities to react impulsively, whether it's a difficult conversation, an unexpected setback, or criticism from someone else. Emotional reactions are fast, instinctive, and often fueled by fear, pride, or past experiences. They come with intensity but rarely with clarity. Thoughtful responses, on the other hand, require pause, reflection, and intention. They allow you to act in alignment with your values rather than being hijacked by momentary feelings. Learning this distinction transforms not only how others perceive you, but how you experience your own life. The first step in responding thoughtfully is recognizing the presence of your emotions without being controlled by them. Anger, frustration, sadness, or anxiety can all feel urgent, demanding immediate action. If you respond in the heat of these emotions, you risk saying or doing things you'll later regret. The key is to pause and acknowledge what you're feeling. Labeling your emotions silently, "I feel frustrated, I feel anxious," creates a moment of separation between emotion and reaction. In that moment, you regain the ability to choose a deliberate response instead of letting the emotion dictate your behavior. Thoughtful responses also require clarity of intention. Before speaking or acting, ask yourself what outcome you desire. Are you trying to solve a problem, protect a boundary, express a need, or simply release tension? Emotional reactions often prioritize immediate relief or defensiveness, whereas intentional responses focus on constructive outcomes. When your intention is clear, your actions are more effective and less likely to escalate conflict. This principle applies in every interaction, from personal relationships to workplace challenges. Practicing active listening enhances your ability to respond thoughtfully. When someone communicates with you, give full attention without planning your rebuttal or defense. while they speak. Focus on understanding their perspective, even if you disagree. Active listening slows down the conversation and allows you to gather information before reacting. It also signals respect and openness, which often reduces tension on both sides. People naturally respond more calmly when they feel heard, and this creates a space for thoughtful dialogue rather than emotional confrontation. Self-regulation is a core component of thoughtful responses. This means managing your physiological and psychological reactions in real time. Techniques such as deep breathing, grounding exercises, or even briefly stepping away from a situation can prevent impulsive reactions. When your body and mind are calmer, your response becomes deliberate rather than reactive. Over time, this practice rewires the brain, making it easier to maintain composure even in stressful circumstances. Thoughtful responses become habitual instead of forced. Another critical factor is perspective. Emotional reactions often stem from a narrow, immediate view of the situation. Taking a step back allows you to see the broader context and consider alternative interpretations. For instance, if someone criticizes your work, your first instinct might be to feel attacked. By examining the situation objectively, you might recognize that their intention was constructive feedback rather than a personal attack. Thoughtful responses arise from seeing beyond the surface and understanding what is real versus what is imagined in the heat of emotion. Delaying responses is also effective. It's not always necessary to answer immediately. Pausing gives time for reflection and reduces the likelihood of escalation. Waiting even a few minutes or longer if possible can completely change how you perceive the situation. Often, the intensity of initial emotions diminishes over time, allowing you to respond with rationality and composure. This delay turns potentially destructive reactions into productive interactions. Thoughtful responses require self-awareness. You must know your triggers, biases, and tendencies in order to manage them. For example, if you know that sarcasm provokes anger in you, you can prepare strategies to respond calmly rather than lashing out. Self-awareness allows you to anticipate emotional reactions and consciously choose a more effective approach. This foresight turns challenging interactions into opportunities for growth and demonstrates maturity and restraint. Empathy strengthens thoughtful responses. When you attempt to understand the other person's perspective, motivations, or pressures, your reactions naturally become less reactive. Empathy doesn't mean excusing poor behavior. It means recognizing context and responding with intelligence rather than emotion. It reduces the personal weight of conflict and allows you to respond with clarity and fairness. Empathetic responses create constructive dialogue and prevent unnecessary escalation of tension. Language and tone are powerful tools in thoughtful responses. Words carry intention and energy, and emotional reactions often express uncontrolled intensity through harsh language or condescending tones. By consciously choosing measured, respectful, and precise language, you maintain authority over the interaction. Your message is received clearly, and you minimize misunderstandings. Thoughtful communication creates influence without aggression, ensuring that even difficult conversations remain productive. Reflection is also crucial. After emotionally charged situations, review your responses to identify what worked and what could improve. Journaling or mental debriefing allows you to analyze moments where emotions nearly dictated your actions and to plan better strategies for the future. This practice builds emotional intelligence, making it increasingly natural to respond thoughtfully under pressure. Over time, you gain a deeper understanding of yourself and your interactions. Thoughtful responses preserve relationships. Emotional reactions, especially negative ones, often damage connections through harsh words or impulsive actions. Responding intentionally maintains trust, shows respect and fosters mutual understanding. Even when disagreements arise, a thoughtful approach ensures that conversations are constructive rather than destructive. Relationships grow stronger when both parties feel heard, respected, and treated with composure. Maintaining internal calm is central to thoughtful responses. Emotions often escalate when you feed them with internal dialogue, assumptions, or imagined slights. Recognizing these mental patterns and choosing not to amplify them keeps your mind clear. Calmness allows rational thinking, creative problem-solving, and measured expression. You can act decisively without the distortions of fear, anger, or defensiveness. Preparation is a proactive way to respond thoughtfully. Anticipate scenarios where emotions may run high, and plan strategies for maintaining composure. Whether it's a difficult meeting, a tense conversation, or an unexpected challenge, having a framework in place reduces impulsivity. Preparation transforms reactive habits into deliberate action, increasing confidence and reducing stress. Another key aspect is learning to separate facts from interpretations. Emotional responses often mix reality with assumptions, projections, or personal narratives. By focusing on objective facts and observable behavior, you prevent exaggerated emotional reactions. This clarity allows you to respond based on reality rather than imagined intentions, which increases effectiveness and reduces conflict. Accountability complements thoughtful responses. Taking ownership of your part in any interaction rather than deflecting blame or reacting defensively strengthens your integrity. Emotional reactions often stem from defensiveness or pride. By choosing responsibility and measured action, you demonstrate maturity and create space for constructive outcomes. Accountability reinforces both your credibility and your sense of self-respect. Consistently responding thoughtfully builds resilience. Life will always present challenges, insults, or unexpected events. Those who habitually respond emotionally may feel drained, overwhelmed, or reactive. Thoughtful responses, however, create a stable inner foundation. You maintain control over your mind and actions regardless of external circumstances. This steadiness becomes a defining characteristic, allowing you to navigate complexity with confidence and grace. The practice of responding thoughtfully also shapes your long-term perspective. Emotional reactions are temporary and often distort memory, while deliberate responses create records of rational action and integrity. Looking back, thoughtful responses reinforce your self-esteem because you acted in alignment with your values rather than out of impulse. Each instance strengthens your identity as someone capable of composure, intelligence, and maturity. In essence, responding thoughtfully is the practice of mastering yourself in every interaction. It is the conscious choice to act from reason, clarity, and purpose rather than being swept away by fleeting emotion. It requires awareness, patience, empathy, and self-discipline. Over time, it transforms the way you experience life. Less turmoil, more clarity, stronger relationships, and greater confidence. Thoughtful responses are not about suppressing emotion. They are about channeling it constructively. When you cultivate this skill, you gain freedom, the freedom to act intentionally, influence situations positively, and maintain inner peace, regardless of what happens around you.